Yep. Okie dokie. Oh. Okay, so yeah, as Alexina said, I'm the Customer Engagement Manager at Anglian Water. I'm part of the brand and comms team. So when I joined Anglian, I was actually the Community and Partnerships Manager, and I was part of the sort of metering team, and it was like a small water efficiency team within metering. But we have now joined brand and comms because I think, and we've actually formed a larger team. So we're kind of customer engagement and behaviour change as a team. And we look after water efficiency and water saving in the community and with our customers, as well as also talking to customers about what we can do to prevent our pipes as well. So that campaign is called Keep It Clear. So we're now kind of have that bigger focus and trying to join everything up. Wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. So I joined Anglian Water in 2020, so literally just before COVID. Before that, I was working at the University of Northampton. So I'm actually in Northamptonshire. I live in Barton Seagrave, just outside Kettering. I was at the university for 16 years. And my role there was predominantly around working in the community. It was 15 years of community development experience. And then the last couple of years at the uni, because you guys probably know the university is a change maker campus. So they work around exploring social problems within local and kind of wider community settings. And then they work with students and academics to drive solutions, even to just test out little solutions on campus. And my role was to do that with students within our careers and development team, to kind of help students explore those social problems and develop ideas for solutions, but then to also kind of explore the skills they were developing in that process. So you can see some of the pictures here. We did ideation workshops with students. We did loads of kind of engagement, trying to get students to talk about social problems and what was going on in their wider society. And it was all kind of about engaging them in those conversations. So my role more recently at Anglian is really similar, just with this focus on actually exploring what we can all be doing to protect our environment and save water, and make sure that we're avoiding blockages where we can. So it's all about engagement. COVID put a bit of a halt on everything, so we had to kind of look a little bit differently at how we engaged our customers in those kind of conversations. But this year has been brilliant because we've been able to get out and about and do quite a lot this year. So you can see we have developed this kind of community hub that we take out and about, so that we can talk to people about what's going on in their area specifically. So that's a little bit about me. So as Alexina said, I'm going to be looking at some of the challenges that we're facing as an organisation, in particular kind of in relation to the climate change, but what we're also trying to do to face into those challenges as well. And then just a little bit around what we can all be doing to help protect the environment and our communities just at the end there. And then there will be an opportunity to ask questions, and where I can, I will always try and answer them. And if I can't, I will take them away and see if I can get an answer for you. And I will be sharing these slides because there's an awful lot of information that I've also put in the notes section. So I'll share them at the end, and I'll make sure that if there's any kind of links that you need or that you're interested in, I can add those in as well. There's so much information on our website. It was kind of like, wow. And I'm not an expert on everything, but where I can, I'll try and answer any questions. So Anglian Water, about Anglian Water. So this is our purpose. So this is what runs through everything that we do. So to bring environmental and social prosperity to the region we serve, and through our commitment to love every drop. So you might see love every drop everywhere, because that is kind of like, it's the heart of what we do. We've split it into these kind of three core cogs. So looking at communities, looking at the environment, and looking at businesses as well. So within communities, I'm just going to quickly move you guys over. We obviously have a number of people that live in our community, that work in our communities. We want to make sure that our people are healthier, happier and safer, and we do a lot of work within our work community to make sure we have motivated members of our team. But we also want to have a positive impact on the communities that we work in, provide safe, clean water, make sure we're providing the best customer service, so delighting our customers, and supplying the kind of demand needs that we have in our region, that they all fall under our smart community section. And then smart environment is making sure we're doing everything we can to protect our environment, having a smaller footprint on the environment and building that kind of space for our community to flourish, really. And then also looking at making sure that we're a resilient business. And we have been doing this. So obviously this year in particular, we had an awful lot of dry weather, and a number of other water companies imposed a hosepipe ban. The reason that we didn't is because we've been working, we're the driest region of the country anyway, so we're always trying to mitigate against potential dry weather, and we've been doing everything that we can to make sure that we are able to cope with those scenarios, which is why this year we haven't imposed a hosepipe ban. But it doesn't mean that if we have prolonged more dry weather, we won't be doing that next year, but it's just, this is us always trying to invest so that we're making sure that we're able to provide our customers with what they need, and that we're doing it in a fair way so that we're not costing the earth, because we want to make sure that we're an accessible organisation for everyone. So as I mentioned, we are here, the east of England. We cover all the way from Buckinghamshire to Lowestoft and Humber to Thames estuaries. We also randomly provide water in Hartlepool, which is a little bit of an anomaly, but that's a little interesting fact as well. We are the largest water company in England, and we have 5,000 employees. We operate just under 40 kilometres of water main, and we have 6 million customers that have water and water recycling, and we provide water for 4.3 million customers. So we're obviously, as you can imagine, incredibly busy, and we have such a diverse part of our region as well. So Lincolnshire at the moment is where we're building the pipeline down to Suffolk and Essex, because we have much more accessible water resource up in Lincolnshire, but we're very, very dry in Essex and Suffolk. So and we have a lot of low-lying land in the Fens and in Norfolk, and a lot of coastline as well. So it's quite a diverse region that we're trying to manage. So these are the challenges, the kind of the key challenges that we're facing into at the moment. So as you guys will be acutely aware, climate change is having an impact. So we're seeing much less rainfall. We actually get a third less rainfall than the rest of the country, and sometimes less than Jerusalem. So although the narrative can be, oh, England's, you know, a rainy country, it's always raining, and that's the kind of narrative we're always having to try to kind of battle against, really, because it's actually not. And trying to convince people that we need to save water where we can be quite challenging, especially when it's raining. So we're seeing a lot less rain, and this year in particular has obviously been challenging, but it's been almost an opportunity for us to actually say these summers are probably going to be more frequent, and we need to do what we can to mitigate against that. As I've already mentioned, we've got 25% of our land is below sea level, so that causes issues as well, not just with having to pump water to get it to where it needs to go, which takes a lot of energy, but also can be prone to flooding. So if we have extreme rainfall, which again is another kind of in relation to climate change, we can be prone to flooding in particular areas, which can be really challenging. So climate change is definitely having an impact on us now. And it sort of feeds nicely into the population and economic growth in our region. So we are the fastest growing region in the country. We've seen a 26% population increase in 26 years. And although we've been pumping, although we've seen that increase, we've been pumping the same amount of water. So we have been doing what we can to talk to people about water efficiency, and we've been doing what we can to find and fix leaks as well. But more recently, because we're seeing less rainfall, we're facing supply and demand challenges in areas of water scarcity, so especially in Essex and Suffolk. So although up until this point we've been kind of managing that supply and demand, we are seeing that this could potentially be quite problematic in the future. So again, we're having to make sure we try to do what we can and plan for that where we can. And because we are a dry region, we have been doing that for years, a number of years now. But population growth also puts kind of a demand on agriculture too. So we have been working really closely with farmers to explore ways in which we can manage land in a different way or use different pesticides, because farmers have a huge impact on water quality. So working with them in partnership and helping to build relationships with them is really important for us. And then environmental protection, I'll be going in to talk about CSOs in more detail, but we're doing quite a lot. We have a huge team working around environmental protection, because the environment is hugely important to us. We want to make sure we're helping it to flourish for the communities that we serve. So we do a lot of projects around biodiversity. We're working on fixing, because the CSOs are not a 21st century solution to the problem of managing sewer flooding. So we're looking into what we can do to mitigate that. And we have been doing that since years and years and years. So it's not just something that's happening now. And then also making sure that our bathing water quality is of top standard too. So these are kind of some of the key challenges that we're facing. I'm just going to have a quick glass of water. So our long-term ambitions in terms of facing into the climate change challenge, we want to be net zero business by 2030. And actually in 2020, the whole water industry pledged to do that and came together and published their plans for how their route map for how they're going to be net zero by 2030. And it's the first time I think a whole industry's come together in that way. And that's something that you can find on our website. And again, I'll make sure the links are all working for you in this document if you're interested in looking at that in a little bit more detail. But just to kind of give you a quick overview, the kind of key points to that are that the team are monitoring our sites over the region to better understand how and where we're using energy and where we can be more efficient. We're looking to kind of decarbonise our operational part of the business. So that's everything from procuring green energy to our fleet to looking at the ways in which we power our sites. But we're also going to be planting 50 hectares of woodland across the region as well, as part of the net zero plan, and to kind of offset the residual carbon emissions. So that's kind of some of the kind of key parts of the net zero carbon plan, but there's a lot more detail online, so it's definitely worth having a look at that. But we're also investing 1.4 billion in our water resources and the environment. We are starting work on the low carbon wetland schemes, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a second. We have a flagship scheme already actually in Norfolk. So again, there's more information about that online. We're reducing the proportion of customers supplied by a single source of water to 14% by 2025. And we're also exploring different ways in which we can power our recycling centres and our operational sites. So we have this kind of little saying like the power of poo, and it's quite cool really, because we've been exploring how the water recycling process can help us generate energy to power our water recycling sites. So I'm not the technical one to ask on exactly all the detail on how this works, but through the process of the cleaning water and removing the sewage from the water, methane and CO2 are collected, and then they're put through tankers which create heat and energy, and then we use that energy to then repower the water recycling site. So it's pretty cool, and we do this at a couple of our water recycling sites, and the plan is to run this across all of them, and we can actually then put some of that energy back into the grid as well. So so it's just an example of thinking a little bit differently about how we do things, I suppose. And the wetland scheme is really cool. The flagship one is in Goldersthorpe in Norfolk. But the wetlands are going to be having £50 million invested in to create 26 of them across the region. So they kind of like a low carbon solution to water recycling. So water passes through into them, and it's gone through a recycling process, but when it gets to the wetland, it goes through an extra recycling process and is filtered through lots of different plants and kind of biodiversity in the wetland, and then it works its way through and goes through this long cleaning filter flow process, and then kind of goes out into the river, a much better quality water. It can clean around 700,000 litres of water before returning to the river. So in Goldersthorpe, I've got some kind of key facts here. So it cleans about 1.4 million litres of water per day, and that it's a huge store of carbon. They enhance our ecosystems, so they're like a haven, a space for biodiversity. And again, they protect against flooding. So some of the issues that cause flooding is that we don't have enough of the space, because we do have growth in the area that can collect the surface level water. So wetlands are great at being able to collect and store that water, and also protect from flooding downstream. So I'm really excited to see that there's going to be 26 more of these built across the region. So as I've already said, we're a hugely fastly growing population. Our region's like growing 26% in the last 26 years. But we are aware that we need to be working to work closely with our local authorities to make sure that we are a key consideration when looking at planning and development. We need to make sure that we're able to supply the demand of new properties being built in an area, but we don't have the say as to whether those properties are built in the area, but we are definitely part of the consultation process. What we're trying to do is to work in partnership with key organisations to make sure that we're looking at development in a different way. So what can we be doing it more innovatively to create more sustainable communities for the future? So we've got some funding recently from Ofwat to work in collaboration with universities, businesses, private sector, public sector, and communities to start looking holistically at the development of those areas, so including energy, water, transport, everything, to build a bit of a blueprint for what a super efficient community could look like. So that's just at the cusp, it's very beginning stages, early stages, but they kind of want to simulate this smart community to be able to provide developers and planners with this sort of new way of exploring how communities can be built so that they're not having such a detrimental impact on the environment. So that's exciting. The universities involved in that and other organisations involved in that are the University of East Anglia, University of Manchester and Surrey, and Thames Water and United Utilities, and I think there's an energy and company in there as well. So that's interesting, and I can provide a little bit more information about that in the notes that I sent round. We've also been working with DEFRA to review the implementation of Schedule 3 of the Flood and Water Management Act. So at the minute, surface water can just be connected to our pipework, that we don't have to be, notified about it. But what this new implementation will mean is that we have to be consulted, which will, before anybody just connects pipework to our, surface water drainage to our pipework. So this will mean that we have more control over that and able to understand and manage surface water management in a different way, maybe, or even look at more innovative ways in which we can protect against more water just coming into our drainage. And if we then understand the impact of that development, I think it's going to have a hugely beneficial yeah, hugely beneficial kind of result in that kind of development process. So I think that's something to look out for. It's looking like it could be next year, so that's something again to just keep your eyes peeled on. But we're driving down leakage. So number one, we're the number one company for leakage in water, in the water industry, and we've been working around leakage since we started, since privatisation. We've driven leakage down by 38%, and we have about 500 leakage technicians working round the clock on leakage, looking at using innovative technology. So we have these drones that go up into the sky that can detect leaks with infrared kind of power and be able to spot and detect leaks in a different way, because half of the problem is sometimes we don't know that there is a leak because it's underground, so it's finding them. But we also have implemented the smart metering program, which is a huge strategic supply and demand program, and it's being rolled out across the region, where customers' homes are being fitted with smart meters, which helps us to be able to identify potential leaks, continuous flow, which could be a leak on a customer side, but it also on our side of the network as well. So that's just again, it's just connecting up that kind of leakage journey. So we need to be making sure that we're detecting and fixing and finding leaks, but we're also trying to be proactive in how we do that. So investing in new technology, investing in smart metering, and making sure that we're able then to communicate with customers if they have a leak, and helping them to find and fix their leaks as well. Because we have a huge problem around small leaks that build up in customers' homes that actually impact on supply and demand quite dramatically, especially in, I don't know whether you've heard about kind of leaky loos and things like that, where it is just literally a continually leaking toilet. And it seems like it's such a kind of small thing, but it's huge in the industry because of the new kind of dual flush toilets that were produced. So helping customers to be able to find and detect and fix these has been amazing with implementing the smart metering strategy. And where we've been working in some of the communities that have got smart meters, customers have been talking to us about the fact that they were told they had a leak and they've been able to fix it. And because they fixed their leak, if it's been impacted on their bill in any way, they can claim a leakage allowance, which is also really useful and quite a good incentive to help encourage people to fix leaks on their side as well. So that's been really great. And then we have the super pipeline. So we have this huge piece of work. It's underway, and it's building a pipeline all the way from Lincolnshire down to Essex and Suffolk. So where we have a lot more water in Lincolnshire, down all the way to Essex and Suffolk, where we don't have, where it's just basically we don't have as much rain. It's very dry down there. And this year in particular, we did a lot of work in Colchester because it just hadn't had any rain, and they seem to use a lot more water there. So we kind of need to be making sure that we can mitigate for that, and we need to make sure that when people turn their taps on, there is water there for them. So we layered a lot of activity in Colchester to make sure that during those hot weather months, we were able to say to them, look, actually, you're using this much water, this is the situation with Ardley Reservoir who supply you, and this is what we're trying to do to mitigate that, but this is what we need you guys to do as well. So it's kind of like that layered approach to behaviour change. So in terms of environmental protection, I'm not going to do this justice, I don't think. I'm super proud of our environmental approach and the team that work on all kind of the projects that go behind all of this stuff. I can run through it all with you, but I would definitely urge you to take a look at this on the website, because there was so much more I could talk about. I've just tried to pick out the things that I think are particularly interesting, or kind of quite sort of, I was even surprised to know about, really. But yeah, definitely have a look at the information on the website, because there's a lot more happening as well. But I'd say our number one priority is around getting our rivers back up to the quality that they need to be. So we have a huge piece of work happening called the Get River Positive programme. It's £300 million of investment into improving our river water quality, and it's looking at doing that through a holistic approach. So again, working in partnership with other organisations, so that we're actually working together to create a better and more positive environment for our rivers to flourish. The investments come from the government's Green Recovery Plan, so it's not going to be at extra cost to our customers. So again, get River Positive, there's loads of information about that on the website. But it's just definitely worth noting that that's one of our number one priorities. We already have a big piece of work that we run in partnership with Keep Britain Tidy, and have been doing it for a number of years, called River Care and Beach Care. So you either may know about this or might even be involved in this, but it's where volunteers come together to protect and look after a stretch of their river or their beach, wherever they live, so they can do litter picks and other activities to make sure that they're looking after that area, and have kind of like create that sense of responsibility over that area as well. And that's fully funded by us, with being delivered by Keep Britain Tidy. We're installing additional stormwater storage at our water recycling centres. I've already spoken about the wetland treatments project, but that's a huge innovative programme around cleaning water, and it's also the biodiversity asset as well. 47 of our sites are protected by law because they're teeming with wildlife, and that's around 146,000 tennis courts worth, which is pretty staggering. I'm pretty amazed by that. We've got several projects that are being funded to help individual species like osprey and pool frog. And we're also working closely with farmers, I think I've mentioned before, about ensuring that we are communicating with them about how we can better, or how they can better farm their land and use resources and pesticides that are less harmful to the water quality in the area, because water quality is of utmost importance to us, and making sure that when it's running off into rivers, it's not doing harm to the rivers. So our team in the biodiversity and catchment team, they've got specially qualified catchment advisors that work really closely to build up relationships with farmers across the regions. That's a big piece of work that's happening as well.
Abby, could I just pause you for a second on that previous slide? Just as a question from Jane then about the sites, the 47 sites. Do your teams on the ground probably don't have the bandwidth themselves to do this, but do they work with wildlife volunteers or wildlife groups to actually actively monitor the wildlife on the sites?
Yeah, so we work in partnership with Wildlife Trust on a number of the sites. I'm not sure whether they actively have, I'm not sure exactly how the programs work, but I can definitely find out for you. But yeah, this has been part of that bigger picture of trying to make sure that we're working with local wildlife trusts, river trusts and volunteer groups to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to protect the areas where we're working. So a number of the big projects that we work on are get a little bit more information on that.
Wonderful, thank you. And I missed a question earlier just on the smart metering from Richard. Is that being rolled out across the region or just in targeted areas?
It's the plan is for it to be rolled out across the whole region within the next sort of 15 years, but there's 1.1 million that will be done by 2025, and that's in some targeted areas. So Northampton has been done and Wellingborough been done, but yeah, it's been sort of targeted at set areas depending on the demand in those areas. So Colchester was done, Norwich has been done, and we've had parts of Peterborough that are being done as well. So yeah, but the plan is, again, by the next sort of 15 years, the whole of the region will be upgraded. So, and we're already like 96% metered, so that's really good. So those people that are metered will, once we hit their area, we'll automatically update their meter. So they don't get a choice. The meters will just be changed to smart meters, which is really brilliant. And it is huge because it's just in that helping us to detect that continuous flow. So it's our number one kind of strategic piece of work around that kind of supply and demand.
Okay, thank you. And just one more on the environmental slide, this one from Andrew King. The question is, having received 2 out of 5 stars from the EPA, in brackets, that requires improvement, and there was 14 significant incidents, red incidents in 2021. What is Anglian Water doing to reduce the significant pollution incidents that are the fault of the company rather than the individuals, county council, etc., and obviously heavily impact people and biodiversity in Northamptonshire?
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to move on to, in particular, CSOs and pollutions in a sec, but so it's probably a good time for me, so I don't know if it's on my next slide or not, but yeah, so we understand that some of the pollutions that have been recently kind of promoted, especially in the last couple of years, around CSOs in particular, have been really problematic for us. It's definitely not a 21st century solution to us, to the situation, and we're doing what we can at the minute to make sure we understand what's happening with the worst offenders. It's a challenge in the sense that we can't kind of rip them all out, so we've been trying to put in monitoring systems to understand where's the kind of worst offenders and try to fix those in the first instance, and we're investing a huge sum of money into doing that as well. So we do take it very, very seriously. We need people to let us know as well if they spot a pollution. So there's a link I've popped in here, because sometimes we don't see the pollution straight away. So we're doing a big piece of work with customers around helping us to let's call pollution watch, so helping us to spot pollutions when they occur so that we can fix them as quickly as possible. And also the big campaign around blockages as well, because a lot of the pollutions are caused by what's put down the drain and the pipes. So although we've got huge pieces of work, massive programs, especially going into areas where we know it's problematic, and we've had a lot of problems with blockages, it's a maintenance program, so we flush out the pipes to try to stop blockages from happening and bursts from happening. But we also need customers to make sure they're not putting the wrong things down the pipes as well, because they kind of cause a lot of issues. So we're trying to be transparent and say this, we know it's not right, and we're doing everything that we can to make sure that we're mitigating that, and we're facing
Is that me frozen or Abby frozen?
Oh,
That's
I
Abby.
think we lost Abby for a minute.
oh, can you hear me?
Yes, so you're back. You're back. No, carry on, Abby. Carry on.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Can you see the slide that I'm on at the moment?
Yes, it's combined sewer overflows, which
Okay,
I just had to look up myself for ignorant ignorant. So I'm looking forward to hearing this one.
Okay, so combined sewer overflows were designed originally to try to protect homes and businesses from becoming flooded by sewage and water in the event of extreme weather. So they work in a way that they sort of like a little overflow within this sort of pipework and underground where water can go. And if there's extreme weather and it overflows, it's released into the environment and it's released into rivers and the sea. So they weren't really planned to be needed very often. They were sort of planned to be needed for extreme weather. And this is like, I'm talking tens, like decades and decades and decades ago they were invented. But because we're seeing much more extreme weather and much heavier downpours of weather, they are releasing more often than we would like. Because of the job that they do, it's meant to be rainwater that is released into the environment, but sometimes there is sewage in there. So like as I've mentioned, it's very expensive and it would be very disruptive to try to replace them all in one go. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we're monitoring and understanding the worst offenders and dealing with them first and looking at other solutions to tackle the situation. And all of the stuff that I've already mentioned in the sense of kind of working collaboratively with other organisations, understanding in terms of development what's going to be connected to our network, managing surface water and sewage water. So from the 70s, before the 70s, surface water and sewage water, they were all connected in one. They went in the same pipe down into our drains. They've now been separated. So surface water and sewage water, they go into different, they all end up in the same place, but they don't go down the same pipe from your homes into the same drain straight away. So it's really the properties from before the 70s that if we have mega downpours of rain, it's those that end up, you know, if we end up with these CSOs overflowing, that's how this kind of sewage is getting in there. So
Abby, a question from Patsy about the surface water. How much has the increase in paved gardens impacted on the ability of your infrastructure to handle any excessive runoff? And do you know, I can't believe there's any legislation to say you can't have a paved garden, but is there at least a monitoring system or sort of awareness? Are you doing anything at Anglian Water to make people aware of what happens when they do pave over their gardens, or the possible ramifications of paving your garden?
Yeah, so we have a team called the Sustainable Urban Drainage Team, and they do quite a lot of work around working in the community, sort of in a similar way that we do in terms of talking around keeping your pipes clean and water efficiency. And I think that the community element of the sustainable urban drainage stuff will probably come into our team as well, but they have a program of educational work called Make Rain Happy, and it's all around looking at rain gardens and why we need to make sure we have the greenery to collect water. And it is all around kind of that. I mean, we can't stop people from paving their gardens, unfortunately, but we are doing what we can to talk to people about the bigger picture and the water cycle, I suppose, and what happens to their water as an industry. And you know, when we do get flooding, and there's been a big piece of work in Peterborough in the town centre where they're looking at introducing some rain gardens, I think, to help protect against flooding in the town centre. So I think if we can start to make more of some of the projects that have been happening in the community, that conversation hopefully will be able to come across with our customers a little bit more. And there was also a piece of work done around I think it was in Peterborough again, where they were doing kind of a water butt scheme as well, so helping people fit water butts in their garden to collect rainwater and things like that. So yeah, I think the campaign could probably do better, but I think it's been a bit of a managing kind of key other messages over the last couple of months, and with COVID as well, just trying to make sure that it's kind of, we're talking to customers about what we need to be talking to them about at the right time, but I think this is definitely a topic that we'll probably bring in to our customer engagement team, because I think it's interesting.
Great. Also another question from Andrew while we're on CSOs. He's asking, would it not be easier to install monitoring points at major CSOs rather than relying on employing local communities to monitor the rivers?
Oh no, so we do. So we've got the event duration monitors. They are put on major CSOs. They're on all our CSOs to try to understand better who the big culprits are. So the river, the Keep Britain Tidy and the river and beach care, that's more around that kind of looking after the littering in the area and keeping those parts of the river clean and tidy. But in terms of pollutions, in terms of the CSOs, they are monitored, and we are trying to better understand who the worst offenders are. Pollution watch, again, is just another kind of extra, because our customers are out and about all the time, and if they see something we're unaware of in terms of not where our CSOs are being discharging, but maybe other pollutions, if they let us know, then it's something that we can look into.
Great, thank you.
Like another string to the bow. But it's worth noting as well that river and water quality, and the CSOs only account for 4% of the reasons why the rivers are not achieving best quality. It's also worth noting that we do have permits to use CSOs because they were there for a reason. But like we say, we don't want to just rely on saying that. It's not good enough for us. We do want to get rid of them. So, but it's just it's just helping to kind of look at that bigger picture. So the other thing I did want to mention, because it's so prevalent and so topical at the moment, but is the cost of living crisis. Because, I mean, especially this year in particular, it's kind of just been every single day, and it sort of weighs heavier on our customers. And we want to make sure that people know about the services that are available to them. And as an organisation, we genuinely care and want to make sure.
Cool. So you can always cut those bits to smaller ones. Yeah, that you can use training for some people.
So, so we've got tailored affordability support for customers, and so this might be something that's of interest to you or something that's of interest to people that you know. But it means that we've got discounted and there's even an assistance fund for people that might be going through the most challenging times. The company have invested 65 million into this, so we want to make sure people know about it and use it if they need it. So this is just for further information, really. And we've also got the priority service register for supporting vulnerable customers, and that could be anybody from kind of a new parent or somebody who's had an accident and is temporarily needing extra support, or people that might need support because they have a disability or are in vulnerable circumstances. So all of this information is on the website, and I would definitely, if you know of anybody who might benefit from this, it's worth having a little look at that as well.
Yeah, Abby, that's great to see. One question from Rupert. Where does the responsibility for the rivers lie between the EA, the Environment Agency, and the water companies?
In what respect do you?
Rupert, are you able to pop on and just clarify that question?
Yes, well, I didn't realise you've been talking a lot about rivers, and I thought that was the Environment Agency's responsibility. And you were also talking about wildlife, and was it ospreys or something? Yeah. I didn't know water authorities had anything to do with that. And also the quality of water running down our streams and rivers. You're obviously concerned with abstraction, but you're also concerned with the water flow down. So that interests me a bit.
Yeah, I guess we see it as our responsibility, because as a water industry, we want to not have a negative impact on our environment. So although we might not be accountable for the river water quality as a whole, we don't want to be impacting on it negatively. So we want to be making sure we're working in partnership with other organisations to do what we can to have a positive impact, and make sure that our processes and our the way we work operationally isn't impacting negatively where possible, and where it is, we want to stop that. So we work quite closely with the Environment Agency, and water quality is hugely important to us. We're not responsible for the rivers, but we want to make sure we're not negatively impacting on them, I suppose, is the answer to that question. So how can our customers help us? I'm going to run through, you'll probably be super aware of all of these tips, but I'm going to run through them anyway. So we've got kind of water saving tips for the bathroom, the kitchen and outdoors, and then some bits around what we can do to reduce blockages. If you ever come across any issues, and certainly or in pollutions, but anything, also if you spot any leaks, you can report this for us online. So there's the link there on that report an issue, and we want to know, we especially if there's pollutions, but for anything really that you come across, you can report it on there, even if you're having issues with your water, like it's looking a bit of a funny color, or you have kind of pressure issues or anything like that, you can report them online. Please keep vulnerable customers in mind. So if you have family members or anybody that you think might benefit from a little bit of extra support, then honestly, the Extra Care team are wonderful. So there's the link there for Water Care, and that's where all the help and advice is. And yeah, we basically want people to know to talk to us, because there might be things that we can do to help them. So top ways to save water. So in the bathroom, so a third of water use is in the bathroom. So it's a really good place to start in terms of saving water. So again, like, try where you can to have a shower if it's not a power shower, because power showers actually use more water than the average bath. But yeah, where you can have a shower, and keep it to sort of 4 to 5 minutes. If you do want a bath, maybe try it two-thirds full rather than right to the rim, because that can save about 25 litres. Turn your tap off when brushing your teeth, and also try and shave a few minutes off of your shower. We do run campaigns, so we do in the springtime we do like a gardening campaign, and in the sort of this time we normally run like a home campaign, and we have a shower timer kit that people can sign up for. We've paused that for the time being, but we're going to be launching that in the next couple of months, and hopefully also do a kitchen campaign as well, so people can actually have some tools and some things they can sign up to help them protect their water resources. The other thing to spot out, and I mentioned it earlier on, is just check your toilet and make sure it's not leaking. So if you've got a dual flush toilet and it's continually flowing, that can add it's like having an extra person in your home using water. So that's a good tip as well to look out for. In the kitchen, only use the dishwasher if it's full. Again, same with the washing machine, only use it if it's full. If a dishwasher is full on eco, it tends to be better than washing by hand. But if you've only got a few dishes, then just wash them in a little bit of water in your bowl. Again, with if you're washing with cooking, protecting, if you're washing your vegetables, if you just wash them in a bowl rather than under a running tap. If you haven't got a water pot, they are great for collecting water when it is raining. Now that we are heading into this time of year where hopefully I'm going to be rain dancing, because I really want to make sure we have rain this winter, because it's where we're going. Rather than a hose. And again, yeah, like we said, a standard that can collect up to 5,000 litres of rainwater in 1 year. So they are definitely a good asset to have if you like your garden. So we spoke earlier a little bit about the pollutions and why pollutions happen. We do have also a major problem with what goes down into our drains, and we do have a programme of maintenance work, so we do try to go around and flush out our pipes, but where we haven't been able to do that, or we have continual problems because of fats, oils and greases, sanitary wipes, sanitary products and wipes, we end up with blockages and pollution. And you can see here in the picture one of the fat bags that's been pulled out. That's just all stuff that should never have gone down the toilets or the drains in the first place. Our drains weren't really, our pipes weren't really designed to be able to take the things that we now have. And every day we didn't really used to have plastic wipes and things like that. It used to go down the toilet. So it's now, it is a huge problem and it does concern us all. I think this is a really fascinating fact, where the wipes and unflushables, they don't get kind of clogged up into fat bags. When they make it to our water recycling centres, they're captured in like this kind of netting. Over the course of a year, if all the skips were piled on top of each other with all the unflushables that we collect from people's homes, they would be nearly as high as Mount Everest in 1 year. And that is just phenomenal. It's just phenomenal to me. So this is where we could all do with, you know, just being mindful of what we're putting down our drains and down the toilets. We have been working as an industry, and we've managed to get now the Find to Flush logo. So we were leading on this because so many people thought wet wipes could go down the toilet, and people also thought the toilet wipes could go down the toilet, because if they're sold, I suppose you would think that that's okay for them to go down the toilet, but so many of them are actually just plastic still, same kind of thing as wet wipes. So we've been working to have to make it very clear when something is Find to Flush. So if you want a toilet wipe, make sure you're checking for the Find to Flush logo. So, and when they're not Find to Flush, they're meant to be indicating that, but sometimes it's very small, so you have to check it out on the product. We have the Keep It Clear campaign, which works in the community, and we're working with lots of different organisations around sustainable sanitary items, because sanitary items, tampons and pads, they do contain a lot of plastic and they can contribute to microplastics in rivers and seas. So we want to make sure that they're getting binned and not put down the toilet, because they, again, can kind of get all clogged up with all the fats and oils and grease and the wipes that end up down the drains as well. So my kind of, I guess, main kind of plea to you guys is, you know, just be mindful of what's going down the toilet, only flush the 3 Ps, and try and capture any kind of fats, oils or grease before, and making sure it doesn't go down the drain. Oil, most recycling centres will take oil and recycle it. So it's worth checking with your local recycling centre if they'll do that for you.
Thank you, Abby. There's one question pending before we open it up to the Q&A. I'm mindful that we have now overshot our hour, so but the question from Rupert. A new reservoir is proposed for Lincolnshire, but there's a lot of local opposition. He's asking, should compulsory purchase be used? Abby, we've lost you. Did you hear that okay, Abby?
I didn't, sorry. I heard the new reservoirs being proposed for Lincolnshire, and then
yeah, the question was, do you think compulsory purchase should be used in this example?
So the kind of sad thing about Lincolnshire is that that was sort of leaked before we had the opportunity to talk to people properly about it. I can't really comment on this because I don't know the ins and outs of it. I will, if this is something you want me to, I can try to find out a little bit more information, but ideally we would be going through a consultation piece with community so they understand. And actually the reservoirs, for example, I mean, you guys might have seen like Cratham and Rutland bring a lot of great things to a community. So I think if we'd have the opportunity to go through the process in the right way, then I think that we would probably be able to to be talking to communities so that it wasn't seen as such a negative thing. So but I can't comment on the should we go through the other process. It's not in my
okay, no, don't worry. Thank you, Abby, that's fine. Fine. Well, I think that's the end of your slides, Abby. So I wondered if anyone has any questions, feel free to put up your hand, and I'll try and see who's first, and or just jump in and ask Abby while we've got her. Thank you. Seeing anyone. There's Bob. Hi, Bob. Would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, it's my catch. I don't know why it's saying Bob.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I joined rather late. We had 3 number 2s turn up at the same time. I've not seen that happen before in Northampton. How is the, so you may have answered this, but how is your leak detection going? Because I live opposite a park where there used to be this wonderful stream with wonderful clear water that ran constantly, no matter what the weather, even in the middle of droughts. And after 30 years, it was discovered that it was a leaking main.
Oh, no.
So I was wondering how your leak detection is going.
Well, yeah, I'd have spoken about leakage. We are actually number 1 for leaks. We've driven down leaks by 38%. So I'm not really sure why it took 30 years for them to discover that that was a leak. But we've got the smart metering program, which is helping us to define continuous flow, because sometimes it's difficult, especially if the leaks are underground, to be able to detect those. One of the things that we were talking about earlier was if people do spot a leak, to let us know, because we don't always know that something is leaking. But we do have new technology that's been developed and run out, like infrared drones that help us to detect leaks as well on our network. And I'm going to share the slides with everybody, and there'll be links so you can have a little bit more of a look at what we are doing in the area. But yeah, that's amazing. So I'm sorry that was well, like you say, yeah, that's 30 years. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, we viewed it as a great loss.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, leakage is something we've been working on for years. So yeah, it's amazing. We deal with a lot of leaks, 30,000 leaks a year, and we have hundreds of technicians working around the clock around leakage. So it's something that we do take very seriously. So if like I say, if you do spot any leaks or realize there's a leak, if you can report it to us if we don't know about it. We do tend to try to get to leaks within 24 hours where possible. That's what we try to do. If it's not possible, we try to let people know what we're doing and why. But that's kind of yeah, that's where we are with leakage.
Thank you, Abby. So I don't think we have any more questions. Last call. Otherwise, I want to thank you from all of us, Abby, for coming to talk today. There's been some really bad press, obviously recently, particularly over the summer, regarding water companies, and it's a tough gig sometimes. You have been viewed very negatively, but you've given us loads to think about. There's, as you say, there's so much to talk about. The website, just had a quick look, is full of stuff. I've never seen a busier website, so we can all go back and read more if we need to. And thanks for providing all the links and these your presentation. For us at Corn, I think we can certainly take on the role of raising awareness in the community and the people that we speak to as to what we as individuals should and shouldn't do. And so hopefully we can work with you on that. Yeah. So thank you again from us all, and good luck with it. And I think we can, yeah, there's some comments coming through saying a really useful talk, lots to think about. So many thanks from us all at Corn.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, have a great